Jake and Seth both start with $50,000. They both invest $500 a month for 40 years. But 40 years later, Jake ends up with about $1 million and Seth ends up with over $5 million. Same money, same time, different return rate. And the crazy part is, both Jake and Seth did the exact same thing. Same starting money, same monthly investing, same time frame. So how does one person end up with 5 times more money than the other? It all comes down to one simple difference: their average return. Jake earns about 5% per year. Seth earns about 10%. And at first that doesn't sound like a big deal, but over time it changes everything. Most people hear 5% versus 10% and think, okay, that's just a small difference. Now, instead of jumping straight to year 40, let's slow it down and actually look at what happens in the first 5 years. Remember, Jake earns 5% per year. Seth earns 10%. After the first year, Jake is sitting at about $58,000 and Seth is at $61,000. So already Seth is ahead, but it's still pretty small. In year 2, Jake grows to around $68,000. Seth jumps to about $74,000. Year 3, Jake is at $77,000. Seth is at $87,000. Year 4, Jake is around $87,000 and Seth is about $103,000. And by year 5, Jake is sitting at roughly $98,000, while Seth is already at about $119,000. And if you're watching this, you're probably thinking, okay, Seth is ahead, but it's not that crazy yet. And that's the important part. After 5 years, the difference is only about $20,000, which honestly doesn't feel life-changing. But here's where most people start to lose hope, because investing isn't about what happens in the first 5 years. It's about what happens when that gap keeps compounding for 20, 30, even 40 years. After a full decade, Jake's investment is worth roughly $160,000, while Seth's investment is worth over $230,000. Now, this is where returns start showing their true differences over time. Seth has earned $70,000 more than Jake, while only earning 5% more than him. But you think that's crazy? Just see what happens next. After 20 years of investing, just 10 years later, Jake is worth $336,000. While Seth is worth more than double at $700,000, and the gap keeps getting larger and larger as time goes on. After the 30th year of investing, Jake is worth $625,000, while Seth has rushed past $1 million and is now worth nearly $2 million. And this is the point where most people finally realize what's happening. It didn't look that crazy in the beginning. Even after 5 years, the gap was only about $20,000. But over time, that small difference kept compounding again and again. Now, fast forward to year 40, Jake ends with about $1.09 million. Seth ends with over $5 million. Same starting money, same monthly investing, same time. But Seth ends up with roughly $4 million more, just because of a higher return rate. And here's the real takeaway. In investing, small differences don't stay small. A 5% versus 10% return doesn't just mean a slightly better outcome. It means completely different financial futures over time. And most people focus on how much they invest. But what actually matters just as much is how long your money has time to grow and what rate it grows at. So the real question isn't whether 5% or 10% is better. It's whether you're giving your money enough time for compounding to actually work.